Live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 125, and around the world on myjoyonline.com. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to The Pulse. This is where the conversation begins. Coming up this afternoon, President John Dramani Mahama's 1 year in office receives widespread positive ratings among Ghanaians, including spare part dealers at Abosokai, who are commending him for cedi stabilization, tax reliefs, and improving economic conditions, while urging government to prioritize outstanding challenges, particularly in the areas of roads and transportation.
As
a businessman, I can say for a fact that things are smoother now. Change is good. I'm happy about the city's stability.
We have details, plus take you around the country to gauge public perception and assess the performance of key sectors of his administration 1 year on. Also this afternoon, the Pulse President John Dramani Mahama calls on Ghanaians to embrace unity, integrity, and service above self as he pledges renewed commitment to ethical leadership on 1 year anniversary.
So let us move forward with humility. Let us lead with empathy, and let us govern with courage.
Also this afternoon, uncertainty is mounting among students of the University of Ghana as authorities are yet to comply with the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission's directive to revert to old fees 48 hours after the regulators gave that directive.
Right now, I would say that 80% of the school don't even think that the refunding will happen. Personally, I don't think it will happen. There will be a trick or something about next semester or next year. And then
it's actually affecting students, some having problems with registration and stuff because of the increment.
Also coming up, thousands of bags of maize remain unsold in warehouses across the Upper West region as farmers face severe financial hardship. Details has the farmers call for immediate government intervention to lessen their plight. These and more we have coming up here on The Pulse. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Deaf and Drill Cough Expectorant. Deaf and Drill, breathe easy, feel better. My name is Faustina Safu. Please stay for details. We appreciate your company. Well, this afternoon, the stabilization of the cedi, reduced taxes, and a generally calmer economic environment are the reasons spare part dealers at Abosokai are giving the Mahama-led administration a positive rating after its first year in office. The traders, however, say more can be done and have outlined key areas they expect the government to prioritize going forward. My colleague Adobe Asare was at Abosokai earlier to engage with traders.
Fantastic. To me, semi rating 1 year actually say out of 100% and come man 80%. Wa boy juma papa no kreni. You try any ko hwe chia sabi o nya se me ye politics but aban bi a atwa no. Omu economic team bi a obobo din wie ye o kan what a solid economic team. Ni omo be ye ya me as a businessman na enne no. Ni ayewura atofo sen ko atumi abaye ama dollar na gina ma me ye business kokwa so e kra ne ma de ba ne de. Me say yewura Mahama so wo to aso say ya de a ene sabi aburu sabi anyado. Kamia kasa kura me demonstration say onko tete.
Okay. So initial comments. I'm taking initial comments from all of them, and then Ojas here says he's given the president an 80% rating because he believes the economy is now improved. Right? He says in the previous governments there was a whole economic team, and he didn't see much as a businessman. But with what Kasiel Atoforsen, Honorable, is doing currently, making him see the business move smoothly. And so he's giving the Mahama administration 80%. Wafa, tell us your rating.
Oh, John dear, you me. Joe Boyduma. John or Boyduma. So Ghana for the kind of crap dia John Boyduma. John or Boyduma.
Many percentage says an just.
Oh, Nana. Now make me say John say, on go so. On year no. Na amanfo beka fa no ho bia no manintie
ɔnyɛ ne ho nyɛ adwuma no Nyankopɔn so bɛhyira no.
Our Uncle Kofi here says the Mahama-led administration is performing exceptionally well.
Yeah, Omoba Mamuni, who the echo, Dolano, Ejina Amaye, and to me the Mecca say, why idea, oh, now the Abacope and the Mon say, Etima say, Dolan Ejina, market and so us road down. But I made the money to talk for my mom say, government workers in Ghana who pay in Mantem. I say, when
change is good. I'm happy about the city's stability.
Now the own time I mean the American home. It may say, I want to know man as a man to do. I want to government workers neka entem. No want to meet Tadian Somalia. Go scale the Pahua or Ginny. Han or how Kakrabia. A one DC government who wants to see a Kakra, or more than say, wait me a year or how no flu.
It's a candy ho, and I say.
He says a man percentage, yeah, made the man 99%. Why are you?
So far, no, Senator O'Shea and Bono. Out of 120. Ministers ne a O'Shea bose obe kati ampa watumi akati ehun se or the 60 na ebu na mamwe nti ho ne chese waye ose ade yo no ne o kan no wadi so pepepe do nipa de untumi nye 100% aka enema kakra 1 or 2
to say
o mo hye ho boy we say ye hwe nanim se na o ma hye bo akra kumase express highway no ye besre no obu ni die kwan so ye hwe nanim so obeya mayen e na dada ne nsoso no a ne nam odan kurokuro ni mo nso no o ye we ni ma onyanto ho because o man ma no accident e kun ye dodo tie besre pi eno nso no mo mfo mani nko ho na o mo hwe enye mayen
Baby a yet the kwan nge. Dansuma ya kwan ye. Ena so kasuwa so wo kwa kasuwa traffic. What I say traffic na no ding.
We really need him to work on our roads and transport system for us.
And he said, "No, be ya besra no. Onye bibi mfa ho. Onye bibi mfa ho pa ya sra no pa.
Ade ba akopɛ ɛyɛ 24 hours economy na ɔbɔ so no ɔmfa n'ani mɛkyerɛ abɔso kan because obi obi firi kuma say back and ne shout timbers.
I want to see the 24-hour economy policy in full force so that I can hire more workers.
Economy dey my ready say 24-hour economy no mama miska mfa nya adwuma na mtumi improve more workers owo me nnwuma mu ɛna me ade ba akon so amesa akafa on say yesre Kumasi road le kuni parodo he ka so awufre ko Cape Coast a which me di more than 3 hours or so omo modern contractor for ntimi nya adwuma no na enimu.
I want you to rate the ministers as well. Which Minister Ben Asisi and Ejuma so weni pa?
Well, me de makoye businessman de ministers ne de o kan say me mo obi abaso de any atoforcing.
My favorite minister right now is Atoforsen. He's doing very well. I also like Atoforsen.
Atoforsen.
You know, I'm a target. God, mommy, last year, last year, we tried almost 3 point something. Until when you compact.
I like Sam George for the reduction in DSTV subscription prices.
Saying you can save it and do something better for your life. Sam George, thank you, Sam George, thank you, Sam George. So,
well, my colleague Adobia Asari there engaging some spare part dealers at Abosokai. Well, let's head now to Kumasi. Residents there are offering mixed but largely positive assessment of the John Mahama-led administration. President Mahama began his second term with a national research agenda promising economic recovery and accountability, which raised expectations among voters across the country. A year on, many residents in Kumasi are rating his performance as high as 90%, citing early signs of economic relief and visible government action. There's more in this report by my colleague Clinton Yeboah.
The residents cited initiatives such as ongoing road works, relative stability of the city, reduction in fuel prices and a reduction in the cost of living to justify their assessment. Whilst they described the first-year administration's performance as stellar, the mixed reactions still weigh on whether the early months' improvements are temporary or not. They indicated that they will be watching closely to see how the next 3 years unfold.
Mama buy was sitting on my super gas so. Even though safer ni dollar kwa watete.
Mahama's governance has been phenomenal. There has been drastic reduction in goods and services. The exchange rate is all-time stable. Now importers are relieved. It's a lie to say he hasn't performed well. Whether they like it or not, we will support him. He should continue this pace. He has absorbed first-year fees of students. What else should he do? We need to be grateful sometimes.
University. Waji can be watchy as I say, Mama, one year debut. By a back on the young dear. Say, me man, percentage, bia, mamma, 90%. Because we have fear. If you are simply forcing, you did consume.
I did not vote for Mahama, but I have to appreciate how he has performed in the last year. Prices were skyrocketing until he came. A bag of rice at 120 cedis is now around 70 and 60 cedis. I am an MPP, but that is the truth, and I will mark him 90%.
Bag of 350. As a saxa and monocasabra, I go for the pencil. Come out of the bear. Come back better to take times 5.
To me, the Amihun said, a man as a my percentage party. Which a man about 90.1.
I believe Mahama has learned his lesson in his first term, and he seems to be doing things right and appropriate this time. If he continues for the next 3 years, I believe the country will prosper and his party will be able to capture power in the next elections. I won't hesitate to mark him 90.1%.
I said, never be assessor. Said, was he boom and this is say, 4 years, 3 years, not a dinner anymore. And Nema Ebequadia, Mr. Ghana, and Ebefa to my perfia.
However, the assessment came with some opposition sympathizers who rated the president's performance at just 2%, citing concerns of alleged abuse of power and false reduction of goods and services.
Oh, but Mama Nabro saw too. Why, come Adum Chedia, Yana, offense, I don't know what you need. I don't what you are, my watch, I don't know. Why are they? Why was Shabwa, began a bit blessed.
I will give him 2% for abysmal performance. All the abuses and unlawful arrest. We are not seeing what he promised. The hikes in goods and services were man-made. The reduction cannot be accrued to him. For Joy News, my name is Clinton Yeboah.
Well, let's hear from the man himself. President John Dramani Mahama says the years ahead will place greater demands on Ghanaians, testing the nation's resolve, patience and discipline, while offering opportunities to deepen the reforms initiated by his administration. Speaking at an interdenominational service at the Jubilee House to mark 1 year since his election, he recommitted to ethical leadership and to listening particularly to the voices of the vulnerable, the youth and those who feel excluded. Presidential Affairs correspondent Max Wagwagwa has more in this report.
It has been a day of praise, thanksgiving and gratitude here at the forecourt of the Jubilee House. Present were diplomats, school children, government officials, ministers, deputy ministers, government appointees, the clergy gathered here to join President Mahama in thanking God for a successful first year in office. In his message, the General Superintendent of the Assemblies of God Church, Reverend Stephen Wengam, said it is necessary to give thanks to God, especially considering the depth from which Ghana came from. He says Ghanaians must be thankful for the stability that the country currently enjoys.
Transformation. We will all agree that this past 1 year, we've seen the economy stabilize. We've seen our currency doing well. I've had friends from outside Ghana who call us and are full of praise to our leader for what God has done in the past 1 year. Transformation calls for thanksgiving. Then secondly, the nation had experienced God's intervention during a difficult moment. God. And I'm glad that this is not only a one-day event. I hear from the grapevine that this is likely to be a yearly event. And this is biblical. That was what Samuel did. Samuel went back to Ramah every now and then to give God thanks and to celebrate his goodness and his mercies. Hallelujah.
President Mahama wore a white shirt, quite symbolic of the day. In his message, President John Mahama stated that his government is committed to all the promises he made prior to the 2024 general elections. And he says the government is more than determined to continue on the trajectory that it is on.
The work we have begun is far from finished. But today reminds us that progress is not measured only by numbers and by charts and diagrams. It is also measured by hope that is restored, by trust that is rebuilt, and correct direction that is regained. Thanksgiving must also be accompanied by recommitment. And so today, we recommit to ethical leadership, we recommit ourselves to service above self, we recommit ourselves to governance anchored in integrity, competence, and compassion. We recommit ourselves to listening, especially to the voices of our vulnerable, our youth, and those who feel excluded. And we recommit ourselves to the unity of our nation, knowing that Ghana's strength has always come from our ability to rise above division and work together for the common good.
Well, now, critical questions are being raised about the direction of the country. Are we getting better, really, as Ghanaians? Are we better off or worse off, or largely unchanged? Well, JoyNews Research has been tracking key performance indicators, policy outcomes, and the progress made on major promises outlined at the start of this administration. And join me in the studio with data-driven assessment of government's first year in office is Caleb Bloom of our research desk. Caleb, welcome to the studio. Just based on what you've been finding out, let's just take it one by one. A lot of things and a lot of sectors to look at, but let's start with the CD performance, the economy, and what we are seeing per our data.
So like you rightly said, the city is very important. And when our team went out this morning, almost everybody was speaking about the exchange rates and how that has impacted their occupation or their normal day-to-day activities. So the exchange rate is a very important indicator. And the last year, January 2025, we started the year with the cedi trading, so the dollar has 14 cedis, 70 pesos. So you need 14 cedis, 70 pesos to get $1. Now, it's 10 cedis, 60 pesos. And in fact, we ended 2025, December 2025 ended with 10 cedis, 40 pesos. So January, it has come under a bit pressure, but it's now at 10 cedis, 60 pesos. So for the exchange rate front, we're seeing good news. And then you might ask why this is happening. Well, it's mainly because of gold. Gold prices are doing very well, and that's Ghana's main exports at the moment. Over 60 to 70% of our total exports is now gold. So once gold is doing well, we get more forex, the BOG has more forex, they can intervene in the market, and then the cedi performs strongly against the dollar. So on the exchange rate front, we are doing very well. And then when we come to depreciation, the same thing. Last year, so 2024, I keep saying last year, 2024, the cedi depreciated by 19%. This year we are seeing 40% appreciation.
Wow.
And this is an outlier because once we started tracking the data in 1994, the cedi has never ended the year more valuable than the previous year. So this is the first time that we are seeing the cedi end the year with an appreciation and 40%. So on the cedi front, we are doing very well. Now if you look at the imports cover, now imports cover is how much the BOG has in its reserves.
Okay.
So remember in 2022, there was a crisis. So we're basically locked out of the external markets. We didn't have access to dollars. So Ghana was running on its own. And to run on your own, you need reserves. So this imports cover. So the BOG keeps some money every month they add to it so that if the economy goes into another shock, Ghana can sustain itself. So currently, we are doing 4.8 months. So if everything comes to a halt, it means that the economy can run for another 4.8 months without any pressure.
But per standards, is this good for us?
Well, under the IMF program, we need at least 3 months of import cover.
Okay.
So we've passed the IMF requirements.
I see.
But then usually the best practice is get as much as you can. So I'm of the view that we need about 12 months, so a year of import cover. But then usually they use 3 months because the worst case scenario is usually far off. That's you get locked out of the market. But then it happened to us in 2022. So we usually have to learn from our mistakes and keep adding to our reserves. But at the moment, we are comfortable with the IMF benchmarks, and we are higher than the 4.1 months of import cover that we had at the beginning of 2024. And then when you come to our debt to GDP ratio, now this again is heavily affected by the exchange rates. So once your exchange rate is not doing very well, you keep piling on debt because most of about 40% of Ghana's debt is in external currency. So once you have external debts in dollars, if your city is not doing very well, you keep adding to it because if you had, let's say, $10 debt to pay, you needed about 100 cedis to pay. But if your city goes badly, that same $10, you need about 15 or 200 cedis to pay, 150 or 200 cedis to pay that same debt. So once your exchange rate is doing very well, it means that you can perform your debt obligation services relatively better. Earlier this year, so earlier in 2024, we had 61% debt to GDP. And so the higher it is, the more bad it is, basically. So if it's closer to 100, that's where you know there's a problem. And when we went to the crisis, I think we crossed 100% for a point in time. So once you are closer to 100, it's a very bad thing. We are currently below 50%, so we are comfortable at the moment. Again, this is on the back of how strong the city has been doing, because we still have the debt. The debt has not reduced that drastically, and we'll get to how much we've reduced the debts by. But even though the debt has not reduced that drastically, the main impact is on the foreign currency and then how our exchange rate is doing very well. So because of the exchange rates, we are seeing, and also the government is not piling on more debt. So no, the exchange rate is doing very well. The government is not taking more debt from the external side. And then domestically, the treasury markets, the interest rates has come down dramatically. From almost 30%, we're doing about 11% now. So the government has less burden on the domestic debt they are accruing. This means that the government can pay the debt easier, which is why we are seeing a debt to GDP ratio of 48%. Again, now the elephant in the room, inflation. Yes, and then, so 2024 ended with 23.8% inflation rate.
Okay.
And then December ended with 5.4%. The Statistical Service just released the data this morning. And this is the lowest we have seen since at least 2002. So since 2002 till now.
4 years ago.
No, not 2022, 2002. 2002.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so that's more than 20 years. This is the lowest we are seeing since 2002.
I see.
And if you get into a bit of the technicalities, you can say since 1970. But then realistically, it's since 2002.
Okay.
And now people say inflation is going down, but I'm not feeling it because when I go to the markets, things are still expensive.
Because it's inflation, not deflation.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yes. So inflation basically, based on what we know, is the increase in goods and services. Yeah. And this is just the percentage pegging what exactly we were to expect. So don't feel it in your pocket. This is good. In the long term, this is good.
And also, if you look at the Bank of Ghana's targets for inflation rates, it's between 6% and 10%. So we're currently below the BOG's target rates for the inflation rates. And all things being equal, it means that the BOG would actively have to try and increase the inflation rates back up to about 6%. So we are celebrating the 5.4%, but from a policy point of view, the BOG would have to increase the inflation rates a bit to stay within the 6 to 10% range. And usually they do this by cutting the policy rates. And once they cut the policy rates, it means that banks will have the option to lend more to businesses. Once businesses get more money, they employ more people, they produce more, increase salaries for workers and all of that. So it's a ripple effect. Once you have the BOG cutting the policy rates, trying to increase the inflation rate to the 6 to 10% band, then businesses and the banks should react. Once the businesses and banks react, the wider economy that people say we are not feeling yet should be felt. But then this has to do with banks actually passing on the cost, because usually, even though the cost at the BOG comes down, banks don't pass on the full cut in the policy rates to the lending rates. So sometimes the businesses complain that even though the BOG has cut their rates, the banks are not cutting their rates. And when they go to the bank, it's still very expensive to borrow, which is why businesses are not expanding and all of that.
And how about monetary policy?
Yeah, so the monetary policy rate currently is 18%. We started the year at 27%. So policy rate is basically how much banks earn when they give their money to the central bank. That's a very basic understanding of the policy rate. So if it's very high, it means that the BOG wants to take money from the economy. So once about 27%, instead of the banks give their money to a businessman, a small businessman, to expand their activities, they don't give the money to the businessman, they go and give their money to the BOG. Because once the money is at the BOG, they get more interest on that. But then once the BOG starts cutting the policy rate, it's about 18%, which is still very high. If this year we should go further cuts to reduce the policy rate, it means more money is going to come to the economy. Once more money comes to the economy, production should increase. If production increases, more jobs, more employment, and then increased salaries and all of that. But then this is all theory. It depends on how the market players react to some of the indicators on the paper.
How about public debt? How are we faring?
Yeah, so our public debt, like I said earlier, is heavily impacted by the exchange rates. So we started the year, or we ended 2024 at 726 billion Ghana cedis. Now in October, we did 684 billion Ghana cedis. And if you look at the preliminary data for November, it's about 620 billion Ghana cedis. So we've dropped from 700 to about 600 billion Ghana cedis, and that's a lot. But then majority of that drop is because of the exchange rate factor. Because once we have a portion of your debts in external currency, once your cedi is performing very well, it means that you need less cedis to pay back your debts. And this is something people get confused by, because once you are paying your debts, it's not the Bank of Ghana that pays the debts for you. It's the central government, through the Ministry of Finance. But then the Ministry of Finance will have to take cedis from taxes and all of that, take it to the BOG. The BOG then transform the money, or change the money from cedis to dollars back to the central government and pay the debt. So if your cedi is doing very well against the dollar, it means that the finance ministry will take less cedis to the Bank of Ghana. Once you are taking less cedis, there's more for other infrastructure projects like the Big Push, more allocations for some of the LEAP and other social intervention projects. So once your interest rate is doing very well, it's a good news for the economy. Either for the fact that businesses and other people can have access to dollars very cheaply. The central government also makes some savings when they are paying their debts.
Okay.
And once you make savings, you can move it to the other aspects of the economy through the Big Push, like I said earlier, other flagship programs of the government, the 24-hour economy and all of that.
How about fuel?
And we spoke about this yesterday.
Yes, indeed, yesterday.
Fuel price, we started last year around 14.75. It got to a high of about 16, almost 16 cedis, 15.9 in 2024. Then it dropped all the way to 10 cedis, 99 pesos currently. So that's about more than 30% drop in fuel prices. And once fuel prices also drop, this also feeds into the inflation rate. Because once fuel prices drop, we are bringing your produce from the farms to Accra, you pay less in fuel costs, and then once you're paying less in fuel costs, you end up paying less at the markets, because fuel cost is a component of how much you pay at the market. So fuel prices too, we've seen improvements, again, because of the
we're yet to feel it when we come to transportation on the grounds, because the drivers are reluctant to reduce prices.
Well, unfortunately, at the moment, it's only those with their private cars that are actually benefiting from the drop in fuel, because transport fares are almost unchanged. They reduced the bill last year, about 15% reduction, but then since then, there has been subsequent reduction in the price of fuel. The exchange rates have been very stable. So these two indicators ordinarily should mean that transport fares the transport union should reduce their prices, but then unfortunately they don't done that yet, and they say some other factors have prevented them from reducing. Also, the online drivers, boats, their computation is always very different and very vague.
Yeah, but then when prices go up, they always leverage that. It appears that we have good outlook in terms of what we are seeing, the numbers. But unfortunately, it's yet to translate to the pockets of Ghanaians, because I feel that the middle chain, the retailers, appear to be greedy. Well, that's my personal assessment of what is happening. But how about the 120-day contract? How did the Mahama administration fare, their promises versus delivery?
So after the 120 days, we did some assessments, and then, Mahama didn't meet all the promises he made. But then after a year, he has met almost all of them, except 3 of them, and they deal with importation of some spare parts into the country and some agricultural machinery. But then some of them are also being implemented through the 2026 budget. So we can say that he has completed the 120-day contract by 80%. That's after a year, not after the 120 days that was supposed to be completed. So about 80% completed through the year, and then 2 of them currently in progress through the 2026 budget, and then 3 of them, we don't know the progress on them so far.
I see. Thank you so much, Caleb, for your time here. on the pulse, but we're still looking at the different sectors of the economy. We'll delve into health, but now 12 months into his administration, we want to find out from individuals how exactly they feel President John Dramani Mahama fared in the fight against illegal mining, because the environment is key. And we have been pushing the hashtag No to Galamsey agenda here at Joy News, while several interventions we know have been rolled out, including the establishment of NIMAS to coordinate enforcement and remedy efforts on the ground as well. And also questions have also been asked about the effectiveness of some of these measures. The Blue Water Guard, for example, they have been deployed as well. We know that some of our forest reserves have been reclaimed, but then really yesterday we heard from our president saying that our water bodies are beginning to clear. Is Galamsey still surging? Is it being contained? What is the verdict? And are Ghanaians really proud of this administration? Let me bring in Member of Parliament for Swami and Member of Parliament of Ad Hoc Committee on Environment, Science and Technology, John Darko. Also joined the conversation is leading member of the Media Coalition Against Galamsey, Engineer Ken Ashigbe. We appreciate your time, gentlemen, here on the pulse. I'd like to start with you, John Darko. What's your assessment of this administration performance as the minority, even before we delve into your assessment of the fight against Galamsey?
All right, thank you very much, my dear, and good afternoon to the good people of Ghana. I have been observing the president so far when it comes to his fights against Galamsey. That is, even if there's a fight, I think that it's been abysmal, to say the least. The president has chosen his poison when it comes to us as a people of Ghana. He decided that he would rather there is praise for him for stabilization of the city than the protection of water body. The president and his team, the government right now, has become the major enabler of Galamsey in the country. They are the ones propping up the people engaging in Galamsey by buying the gold from this illegal source.
These allegations we cannot prove, John.
So they are buying this gold from these illegal sources and giving it to a gold board. As a result of that.
But these allegations we cannot prove. You're not pleased with the work of the Blue Water Guard, NIMAS?
As a result of that, you see that the city has stabilized, the gold prices are up, and oil prices are down, and so there's some stability in the system. The president is taking praise for that. The president should be ready to take the blame for neglecting the very downtrodden people he claimed to support. The president should take blame for the destruction of our water bodies. If you go to a place like Nzima.
John, you're making allegations we can prove, but you're not pleased with the work of NIMAS? You're not pleased with the work of the Blue Water Guard?
If you go to a place like Nzima, on the way to Maha Beach, where the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources generally hails from, is getting worse. Ghana Gas's right of way is being destroyed by illegal mining activities. Our water bodies right now, go to Takwa, there's no water in the Takwa Township. No water is flowing through the taps in Takwa Township because of Galamsey. The forest is completely destroyed. No water for the citizens in Aboso, in Takwa, Trisia, Wasa, Bogoso. We don't have water for them because our water bodies have been destroyed by illegal mining activities. In the last 12 months, the president is taking praise for the stability of the city because the president and his team are buying gold from these people, from the illegal mining people, from Galamsey people. You understand?
Allegations we cannot prove, John.
So, my dear, the people of Ghana are watching. The people in these communities are watching. They are dying from diseases as a result of the pollution of the water body, as a result of exposure to toxic chemicals. We have a lot of birth defects in our community.
Raise the performance of this administration.
This is what the president is doing to the people of Ghana.
Rate the performance of this administration when it comes to the fight against illegal mining. If 10 is the highest and 1 the lowest.
I'll give them 0 because look, we are not asking for the establishment of these institutions. We are asking for action. Since the president set up the team, what has happened to the fight against galamsey? Look, it is even worse. Right now, it's open display on your way from Takwa to Kumasi. And Joy, I must admit that you are the only group who are doing well with this galamsey fight. So please take your team to Takwa, take your team to Bogoso, take your team to Wasa, take your team to Amenfi. Let them drive on the Takwa to Kumasi road. Let them try to do find out from them the Ghana gas right of way. Let them try to walk through that and see the dangers illegal mining is causing to us, and the fact that it is now open season for these illegal mining people, because for many of them, they believe that their government is in power and the government is shielding them. They are making money, the government is making money, and now they can take all the praise.
But how do you respond to critics who say really that under the NPP administration, you had a presidency that put his presidency on the line? And yet the fight against illegal mining is where it is today. How do you respond to critics?
So in the last 12 months, I can say that this president has performed abysmally.
John, it appears you're not answering my questions. You are setting your questions.
In the last 12 months, we are assessing the Mahama's government. Look, it's past 12 months. Let's talk about what's happening in this country. Let's not be doing this to ourselves. We keep referring to the past administration. I think that it's past time now. We have to be looking at what is happening in this country now. And so far, Joy, what we've been doing today, I've been listening to your news. You are assessing His Excellency the President's administration in the last 12 months. Is that not what you are doing?
Indeed.
So why?
Indeed, but then it's important that we just get the conversation perspective. I just wanted to know how you respond to critics, especially because you say that you rate this administration 0 in the fight against illegal mining. We'll delve into other areas. Stay with me, John. Let me bring in Engineer Ken Ashibe just to get his own evaluation of this government's interventions and their impact when it comes to the fight against illegal mining. What's your assessment?
Well, thank you very much. Well, I think we need to concede that the current president had shown the will to fight this menace that is eating us up. The current Minister for Lands and Natural Resources has also, been at the forefront fighting it. One of the things I judge him positively is that when he took over as acting Minister for Environment, finally we've gotten this obnoxious LI repealed. We have seen Operation the NIMOS and what they've been doing and the impacts they have been making. So when the president talks about the turbidity of a particular water body hasn't improved from Coffee to Milo, though you and I know that we don't really measure turbidity with those. But again, trust the president with his communication prowess, wanting to use that to drive home that. That river body that the president was talking about was Ayensu. And the reason why you find out that Ayensu has improved is because NIMOS has done some extensive work in that particular area. And so that's what tells you that if we're able to do what NIMOS has to do, it would have been better. And you know that when we met the CSOs, so when the CSOs met with His Excellency the President, one of the initiatives that was mentioned was the fact that we're going to have NIMOS have permanent bases in some of these particular areas. Unfortunately, that has not happened. I've heard Parkwesi Sandoff talk about the fact that it will be done in the second quarter. So that's one of the challenges that confront us. The interesting thing is that for us at the coalition, one of the asks that we had of His Excellency the President was that we should be doing some monitoring of the water bodies, looking at the turbidity of the water bodies to be able to ensure that we are tracking properly to see whether some impact is happening. We also had mentioned the need for tracking forest recovery or destruction to see how that was happening, testing the level of heavy metals in our soils and all of that. Unfortunately, if that's been done, we've not seen the results. But we, as the coalition, we've done some work. And so if you take TBDT, for example, the only place where you are seeing TBDT show some good numbers, 11 NTUs, is at the source of the Brim River at Apampam. That is showing 11 NTUs. In the same period that we're doing it between November, December last year, you find out Chebi is doing over 6,000 NTUs. Osino is doing around the same. Bonso is doing over 16,600 NTUs. Akim Odan is doing above 2,000. And you all know that the WHO standard is 5 NTUs. And then when you also want to look at the dissolved oxygen, the DOs in the water bodies as well, it's only, you will find out that it's only at Apampam that you're doing 6.83 megagrams per liter. The rest of them are all in hypotoxic areas where the oxygen level is low for fish and many of the species to be able to go into. And then you would look at the issues around heavy metals. Arsenic is showing very high. Again, it's only a pam-pam, that is showing arsenic levels that are below the 0.1 milligram per liter level. Mercury, the same thing. Lead, the same thing. Cadmium, the same thing.
So we're not out of the woods yet, are we?
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So we really are not out of the woods. And there's a lot of, and currently there's one new risk that has come. What is happening is that these illegal miners are bringing people from Burkina Faso to come and do cyanide leaching. And they call something they call in situ leaching, where in the pits, they pour the cyanide in there. But, the large-scale miners would use cyanide under the regulation of the Minerals Commission and the EPA. And these, when they do them, they line the bottom of this and the sides of it so that the cyanide does not leach into any of our water bodies. Unfortunately, somewhere in the Ashanti region, it had to take the intervention of the EPA to ensure that a borehole which was closed by that place that had high levels of cyanide in it, they were able to prevent the community from drinking. What that would have done is that it would have wiped out that community. So the risks are also in there. So those are challenges that we have.
What would you like to see in the second administration of this government when it comes to addressing the fight against, second year, the fight against Galamsey?
What do we want to see? So what we want to see is, the issues around NIMOS. We need to provide NIMOS with the resources that are required to ensure that they can form permanent bases in some of these hotspots. As we do the same thing, we should do a similar thing for the Forestry Commission. Let's turn the Forestry Commission guards into proper paramilitary teams, arming them, providing them with superior firepower than what most of these environmental criminals, have. And then build bases for them in these forest reserves, like we do for the Game and Wildlife Reserve people, where they live within the areas. So that has to be done. Another challenge that we have faced is the lack of prosecution. When it comes to, and we are not seeing convictions and all of that. So definitely the Attorney General, the IGP, together with the Chief Justice, working together with His Excellency the President, we need to have a framework that would ensure that there will be effective convictions, prosecutions and convictions of people who are involved in this. Then you remember in 2024, His Excellency the President, when he was a candidate, had talked about, rightly so, that the root cause of this is the kingpins. Unfortunately, we are not seeing, the dealing with the kingpins. So one of the things we want to see is how His Excellency the President, working together with his ministers and all, would deal with the kingpins who are involved in Galamsey. What is happening to Akonta mining the case? What's happening to that? We have the Professor Frimpong Boateng's report that is replete with a lot of politically exposed persons who are involved in it. What is happening to the two that the president asked the Attorney General to get Iyoko to investigate? We're not seeing that. So again, that should be that is something that we need to do. Very importantly is that we should not have MCs and DCE sitting in their various communities where they are head of the security committee and head of the mining committee, and expecting the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources to be dispatching NIMOS to come into their communities. What the president has said that one of their KPIs is Galamsey, but we're not seeing that also happening. So it is important that we hold these MCs and DCs to account. Anybody that has Galamsey happening in his community is either too incompetent to represent the president, or he himself is complicit in the illegality that is happening. So His Excellency should hold them also accountable. And another group of people that should be held accountable is the chiefs. There is no way that you and I can go into any of these communities. The chiefs talks about the fact that they don't give licenses and all. But decide that even you have a cutlass or a hoe and you are going to farm on any piece of land. So if there's a chief that allows Galamsey from happening on his land, and he himself is not out there screaming that we should come and help him, like the chiefs of Jema, for example, who are preventing these things from happening, and some of the other communities that are fighting against this legal. The government, we should pass a law that gives the power to the government to be able to confiscate those lands from these particular chiefs and then get some reclamation done, and so then the land will be kept to the government. So we need to be a lot more tougher on this issue of Galamsey than we're doing.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ken Ashibe, for your time here on The Pulse. Let me wrap up with John Darko. Just your assessment. You have told us that you rate this administration 0 out of 10. What would you like to see change, especially in the second year of this administration? John, you have to unmute for me to hear you clearly.
Okay, I'm back, right?
Yes, you are back.
Yes, yeah. So I said that Mr. Ashibe has said a lot as regards what the president should do. I believe that the president has to gather the political will to fight those who are engaged in this activity. Look, if we don't fight this head on, this country is heading to a collapse. If we allow Galamsey to continue to fester the way it is going, we're going to be in trouble. So the president should see this as a national security issue. And that is why some of us earlier on believed that the president should have declared state of emergency in order to really tackle this. But he, in spite of the fact that he had promised the people of Ghana, he and his party had drummed home this idea of declaring state of emergency. When he won power, he forgot that that was his main promise. So the president reneged on this promise. I believe that if we are to win this battle, the president must declare state of emergency. We need to gather all the political will to fight it. And if he does that alone, I believe that all the others will follow. And of course, it will include even prosecuting the campaigns in the industry.
Thank you so much, John Darko. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. You're still watching The Pulse. When we return after this quick 10, we have quite a lot in store for you. We'll take you to the Upper East region and just get a sense of what is happening there and farmers' expectation of this administration. We also look at another leg of the conversation between 4I economy. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. The former Finance Minister, Dr. Amin Adam, is defending Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's claims linking him to Ghana's recent economic challenges. He insists the accusations are inaccurate and are politically motivated. With just days to the NPP presidential primaries, Dr. Amin Adam argues that the economic gains being touted by the Mahama-led administration are largely built on foundations laid by the previous NPP government under the leadership of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. We'll hear from him shortly, but first listen to the General Secretary of the NPP, Justin Frimpong-Kodia, who says the party is fully prepared ahead of the upcoming presidential primaries. He spoke earlier today on the AM show.
Made tremendous improvement and headway with respect to what we are supposed to do as a party. And like I said, once we get over with the presidential primary, because that is the main issues in the cracks in the party, because of several polarization and divisions on our front. But once we're able to get over the 31st, then we are good to go.
Well, there were some concerns that leadership of the party were doing things in favor of Dr. Bawumia. With this opportunity, was that really the case?
Well, it's certainly an unfounded allegation, and it's something that I disagree with anyone who will have that notion, because as General Secretary, I have not done anything to the contrary to suggest that I'm supporting candidate A or candidate B, because everything that we've done, the setting up of the elections committee, have they done something that suggests that they are doing or they are scheming to favor a particular candidate? No.
We can now hear from former Finance Minister Dr. Amin Adam, who maintains that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia remains the best candidate to lead the NPP, citing his track record in governance, innovation and economic management.
The economy crumbled because there were factors beyond our control. Bawumia didn't bring COVID. Bawumia didn't impose the Russia-Ukraine war. And when you are running an economy, there are factors, exogenous factors, that are beyond your control. You can manage them to some level, but you cannot have full control over them. And that was why when we started the IMF program, the IMF insisted that we should build the reserves, the international reserves of the country, so that we can use it to cushion ourselves when we have crisis. That was why reserves that we had built so much before COVID could take us to 4 months of import cover. But as a result of COVID, we had to rely on the reserves. And the reserves depleted to the extent that by the end of 2022, we were running below 3 months of import cover. Because you agree that you must build resilience to be able to offset the effects of external exigencies. And so it wasn't Bawumia who caused it. But what did Bawumia do to help us come out of the recovery? The domestic gold purchase program was introduced. And that helped a lot in bringing us to the recovery levels.
Well, let's explore this further. Join me via Zoom now is Kofi Tondo. He is a political aide and former Vice President to former Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. Let's delve right into it. I'd like to start with your assessment of Mahama's 1 year in office. From the camp of Dr. Bawumia, what would you say is his performance?
Yeah, a very good evening to you and to your cherished viewers. I think President Mahama's performance has been a mixed bag. You know, we've seen some recovery in some space. We've seen very bad decisions in other spaces. For example, if you look at his decision to fire some Ghanaians, you know, who were rightfully employed. If you look at the vandalism and the, you know, violence activities that occurred early stages of his government. And then you look at some positives, of course, looking at the appreciation of the city, even though we have strongly argued that that has been done artificially, looking at inflation generally. You would have to say that they've seen some progress in that space. Then you have other issues like the gold board issue, which has, you know, completely derailed trust in the Dory trading space. And then you also have to look at Galamsey. I mean, you were talking to my friend Dakon, MP for Swami, and then Ken Ashigbe. I was actually surprised of Ken Ashigbe's current position on Galamsey, because I heard him on TV3 rightfully condemning the government and saying that people around the president are highly involved in Galamsey, importing equipment, and then also weapons. He said it on TV3. So I was actually so surprised. And this is just last week. So I was actually so surprised with the pivot in position. I mean, generally, if you look at Galamsey, we haven't seen much. So yes, while I acknowledge that we've seen some degree of progress on the economic side, other sides have not been so positive in terms of violence, in terms of, treating a section of Ghanaians as though they are not Ghanaians, in terms of Galamsey, etc. So it's been a mixed bag of issues. But generally, I think the president has been calm, which I think is positive. We must commend him for that as well. And then you look at issues of, for example, the unfortunate accident that happened at Burma camp. At Ewa. My sister, as you sit here, do you know what caused and who were responsible and who has been held accountable? I don't know. So whereas we look at some positives, we must be very careful not to overlook other critical negatives, that have occurred within the last few months. 6 young people cannot die, and there will be no accountability. Just because we have seen some degree of progress on the economic side, we must necessarily overlook the fact that 6 young children died and zero accountability. That is not how we run the country.
Investigations into that. Well, at least that's what we're told. But let's delve into...
No. Launch investigations into what? Children, young ladies have died. 4 months on, you've launched investigation into what? We all saw what happened. What investigations do you need to do to punish the culprit? You engage in activity to recruit young people. You had a person who was responsible for the recruitment. You had a person who was responsible for setting up the recruitment process. What else do you need to do? Nobody has been punished. Lives have been lost. Have we even compensated the parents? Have we given them any sort of reprieve? No, none, zero. And we are supposed to overlook all of that on the back of what? Investigation? I saw the funerals. Unfortunately, I didn't see any high-ranking government official even at the funerals. Look, we are building a society. A society that doesn't value human life is not a society worth fighting for. 6 children have I keep saying children, young women have died and no accountability, and we are supposed to be happy because of what? So these are all issues that have to culminate together to determine the performance of the government. I am very okay to admit where there have been positives, as I've already done, in the space of inflation, in the space of CD appreciation, even though we have our questions. I'm okay to, even petrol, for example. I saw petrol has come down to 10 cedis, 99 pesos. Excellent, no issues with that. We are happy because for me, as the MPP, we don't need President Mahama to fail for us to come back to power. Ghana or Ghanaians don't think in a binary way that one has to fail for the other to occur. No. President Mahama can be successful. In fact, he must be successful for the benefit of all of us. He must be successful. Ghana cannot continue to lag behind. So as a political party, we have no interest in wishing bad for President Mahama. We want him to succeed because we believe that even in the face of his success, Ghanaians can still decide that, look, although you've done well, going forward, we need a leader whose vision transcends the ordinary.
Let's talk about the internal campaign for the NPP.
No problem.
So far,
another time we can delve. Go ahead.
So far, we've been on the campaign trail tracking the various camps: Kennedy, Brian Echampong, Duchum, and even Bawumia's camp. Where are you right now? We have just barely few weeks to the general elections, the internal party elections. How is campaign ongoing so far? The party primaries, how is it going so far?
So far, it's been positive. We finished the Greater Accra region yesterday. As I speak to you, he's currently in the northern part of the country, northern region to be precise. He did Salaga North, or he's doing Salaga North, Salaga South today. and continue to finish in the northern region. Once he's done, he will return back to the southern part and complete the entire tour in the Ashanti region. I think so far so good. Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen the different polls from different pollsters just pegging your candidate as leader in the race. You're on the ground. Is that the case? Are people that optimistic that Dr. Bawumia is a man for the job?
I am of the strongest view that delegates are well grounded in the fact that our political history replete with political consistency. If you look at our history from President Kufuor to President Mills to President Kufuor to even President Mahama, history is replete with evidence of political consistency. So that is not lost on delegates. That look, in our history, very often leaders have to show up a few times. In some circumstances, they have to show up 3 times before Ghanaians will repose the requisite trust in him or in her to give the power to become a president. So delegates are very well grounded in their thinking that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia deserves another opportunity. We deserve to market him to the Ghanaians again. After all, amongst the other candidates, or amongst the 5 candidates, he's the most marketed, he's the most prepared, and he's the most formidable, as far as the most experienced. So why do you want to start from ground zero? You've made some great impact. Why not continue? Especially where history has shown that continuity, consistency gives value. So we'll definitely...
You say he's the most experienced candidate,
yeah.
But then let's say presumably he wins the upcoming primaries. Then you have to go against the NDC. Looking at the party's current performance and the positive outlook of the economy, how do you plan to pitch your candidate as the man for the job?
I think I've already answered that question in my earlier submission, that if President Mahama succeeds, that is not a guarantee that the NDC will win the next election.
What will be his message?
No,
what will
please,
be his message to Ghanaians?
Let me finish my position.
On the economy, what will be Bawumia's message to Ghanaians?
But how can Bawumia determine the final message on the economy when we are just 1 year into a 4-year term? The point I am making to you is that once we get there, Bawumia's position will largely center on ideas that transform nations, ideas that build economies from a certain percentage to a higher percentage. For example, if you look at the history of Wandu, if you look at the history of other Asian countries and how they were able to transform.
Kofi, what is Bawumia's message to Ghanaians, really? I'm sure you already have something that you're pushing as his campaign team member, as his aide. I'm sure you already have a message to Ghanaians. And so we're wondering what that message would be. We've heard from the camp of Kennedy Japong. He seems to be pushing the jobs agenda. We just want to know what he would tell Ghanaians should he win the upcoming primaries.
I'm telling you, are ambushing me. I'm telling you what the message is.
Okay.
That the message will be a leader who is going to leapfrog Ghana into the next industrial revolution by leveraging technology, leveraging modern sources of doing things to build a modern society. His message is that we started a process of formalizing Ghana's economy, which today has shown to be very positive for our economy in terms of the economic impacts that we are even currently seeing. Let's build on that. Let's continue to formalize because that's the only way. And that's why I was citing examples of economies that were informal, but became formal, and that alone increased their GDP sometimes by 1,000% just by leveraging technology. So President Bawumia is going to definitely highlight on those things. But the point I was trying to make to you is that we don't need President Mahama to fail before we can present formidable candidates. That's the point I was trying to make to you. So the message is very clear. Building a modern society, leveraging technology, leveraging the skill set of our young people. For example, today, if you want to create jobs for young people, what kind of jobs are you creating for them? The Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas are looking for modern jobs. Let's look at the Poland example. Poland, after all the challenges that they went through, they had to take a policy decision that let's modernize our economy by building modern skills or giving our citizens modern skills. And that is why today, Poland is one of the advanced countries in Europe, because they diversified their skill force and they were able to build that modern society, leveraging technology. And that's precisely what we are going to do. Ghana cannot continue to operate on the same tangent, brick and mortar. We need to look at how we can even use the service industry. When you go to Singapore, they are using the service industry. Why must we always, I'm not saying that manufacturing is bad, we are going to invest heavily in manufacturing, but what I'm saying is that if you look at advanced countries, they are leveraging service industries. If you take a company in America, for example, they may not produce a physical product, but the services they are offering runs into billions of dollars. These are the things that Ghana needs to do, the modern jobs, the modern solutions. And that is what Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia stands for.
Thank you so much, Kofi Tonto, his political aide to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. So we're just still looking at the various assessment of the different sectors of the economy. We appreciate his time as we let him go. We're looking at other sectors of the economy. We'll look at health. We'll look at education as well, as we do 1 year assessment of President John Dramani Mahama's administration. You can share your thoughts with us on all our social media handles. We're JoyNews on TV. You have questions, if you have your opinion about this administration, please feel free to share with us. But let's head now to Cape Coast, because residents of Cape Coast and surrounding communities in the central region will experience a planned power outage tomorrow, January 8, 2026. The interruption from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. is part of efforts to replace a major transformer at Cape Coast substation and improve electricity reliability. That's according to ECG. According to the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition and the Ghana Grid Company, Gridco, the existing 33 megawatts transformer will be replaced with a 66 megawatt transformer unit, increasing the substation's capacity to meet the growing demand in the region. I beg your pardon. Join us now is Esther Anjola. She is the Central Regional Communications Officer of the ECG. Just to give us details about this and what exactly we should expect. Is this just in the Central region? Will it be in other parts of the country? Just here to give us details. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. I'd just like to delve right into it. You know all the dynamics, so let's get into it. Why is this necessary at this point in time, and how long will this be for?
Thank you very much, and a good evening to you and your cherished listeners or viewers. With this upgrade, it is something the Ministry and Gridco decided to undertake due to the transformers capacity that we are having at the Cape Coast BSP. It's going to be scheduled for tomorrow, as you've said earlier on, and it's going to last for 16 hours. The reason why they are doing this is because the capacity is at its maximum. So they need to bring in a new one. It was supposed to be, or it is 33 MVA. We have 233 MVAs, but we are upgrading to 266. We've done the first leg, so this is the last phase of the upgrade they are doing. So this is to ensure we have enough capacity for household in the areas, and it's going to cover 4 districts. That is Ejumakon, Saltpond, Cape Coast, and Trifopraso. So we've informed our customers about it. We've informed them since the latter part of last year. Everybody is prepared. And as we speak, the media is aware. Hospitals have contingency plans to get things running for them tomorrow. Some of them have said they have generators on standby for their critical installations. Those factories who are working with need electricity has also said they have their generators ready. So everybody is prepared because it's going to be a benefit. So they want it to be done as quickly as possible, and they can get on with their lives and schedule.
So when should we expect lights to return to the area?
So it's going off 6 a.m. tomorrow morning, and it'll be back by 10 p.m.
At night?
Yes, please.
Okay. We appreciate your time here on the Pulse. Away from that, let's just look at some of the key things that is happening across the country. Let's head now to Kumasi. We told you earlier that drivers in Kumasi are pushing back against demands to reduce transport fares. Yesterday, we just walked you through the new reduction in fuel prices. As to if that will be reflected in your pocket, it really relies on the drivers to reduce transport fares. They have been giving the explanation as to why exactly they would not be reducing fares, and we'll be back to have that conversation after this quick turn. Thanks for staying with us. Let's head now to Kumasi, where commercial drivers are pushing back against demands to reduce transport fares despite the recent drop in fuel prices. While commuters hope the falling of petroleum costs will lead to cheaper fares, drivers argue that the broader realities of transport operation make reduction unfeasible. They point to rising operational and service costs, including high spare part prices, which continue to strain their finances. Drivers insist that lowering fares would significantly impact their income. Our reporter Arabna Akwe was at Tech Junction in Kumasi to speak with some of the drivers. She filed this report.
Prices have dropped again this year, prompting calls from commuters for a reduction in transport fares. But here at Tech Junction, some drivers and workers say the cost of operating their vehicles remain high despite fuel price relief, and they believe the government should focus on other important things. Here's what they had to say.
It would have been good to reduce the fares, but we go for maintenance. Prices of spare parts remain the same. If that comes down, then we also reduce the fares. It will benefit us all. The fares should remain the same, but attention should be focused on this. I pay 5 cedis from Tech to Ejoso, but in the evening I pay 8 cedis. Those who don't want to charge a fixed amount will load short. That wastes a lot of money. This is what attention should be focused on to relieve us. Although the fuel price is down, spare parts prices remain the same. Yesterday, I bought a head at Magazine for 4,500 cedis instead of 3,500. If they reduce the fares and reduce the spare parts prices, that will help us all.
A lot of fun idea. Say, General be a general idea about and I saw motive soon as a spare part for metal for my okay, no problem.
The previous reductions didn't help us. When I buy 400 cedis of fuel for a day, the government takes 40 cedis. In a month, I'll give the government about 1,200. If they let us reduce fares again, it means they want to slap us in the face.
It's a time Mama by trying to them away inside me task when I was with Auntie Cascasuria. And I said, so 2 million are they boy.
What do you ever to swear? I think my case can stay.
They knew they would add the 1 cedi levy. They should have maintained the previous fares, but you can't reduce fares and still take the levy. It means you are taking my pocket money.
Commercial drivers are holding firm on current fares despite falling fuel prices. The coming days will show if commuters will get any relief. For Joy News, Arabna Akwe, Kumasi.
Well, let's head now to Sisala East. What was expected to be a bumper harvest season for farmers in the municipality of the Upper West region has rather turned into a period of intense hardship as thousands of bags of maize remain stuck in warehouses across the country and in that area especially. Some farmers have been left with no option but to store their produce in the open, as available storage spaces are already filled to the brim All efforts to secure buyers have proven futile, while the few traders willing to buy are taking advantage of the situation to exploit the farmers with very low prices. Fatal Bayaga visited the area and filed this report.
The farmers are not only devastated by the situation, but are also discouraged from continuing large-scale commercial maize farming. From the municipal capital to the most remote parts of the municipality, farmers are left in limbo, with their bags of maize sitting idle and yearning for the market.
Behind me, you see bags of maize here in Tumu in the Upper West region. Farmers here say they are struggling to sell these produce, and that is affecting their daily lives.
Commercial farmers in the Upper West region, including the 2025 Upper West Best Woman Farmer, Damata Yusuf, say the losses incurred during the farming season are enormous due to the poor sales.
Last year, at this time, maize was 500 Ghana cedis a bag. That's 100 kg. But this year, like this, even 300 you will not get. 300 Ghana cedis for the 100 kg, you will not get. And during the time of planting, we bought fertilizer about 420 Ghana cedis.
I have already incurred losses this farming season. Even though I am yet to sell my bags of maize, the current market price is a clear indication that I will lose a significant amount of money.
Just even to get money to even bring those items to the household is even a challenge for us now. How will I be happy to go in for next year harvest? It's a problem. So I don't know. Many people will drop out from the farming this year.
Farmers are also grappling with harvesting challenges, as laborers who usually assist with harvesting have left the area for other places due to the low price of maize.
We have seen that. Why should I come and work and take one bag of maize? Then I'm going to sell 250 or 300. That's why now, this year, they left us and ran back to Northern region and then Northeast.
This year, we couldn't get laborers to help us do harvesting.
Why?
Because of the low price of maize. Maize, the price is low. So the women at Ape said the price are not good, so they will not come.
Government initially allocated 100 million cedis to the National Buffer Stock Company to address the glut, and later made an additional allocation of 200 million cedis in the 2026 budget statement. However, farmers say they are yet to see any impact.
Earlier on, I heard that government have even given money to some aggregators to buy, but we've not seen them around this area. We've not seen any aggregator this year, so we are asking the government to come to our aid. If not, maybe he will lose farmers the way we Upper West here or in Tumu here normally do the farming.
We never enjoy anything from the buffer stock. So I'll plead the government. Once they wanted to give buffer stock things to buy, they have to do it regional basis. Especially maize. You know, maize, you have to assess and know if they're going to buy maize. And they're doing regional basis. People know that if the money comes to Upper West, South West, East, and West East, we all benefit more from that money.
The Member of Parliament for the Sisala East constituency, Mohammed Issa Bataglia, says he is convinced the government is committed to addressing the challenges raised by the farmers.
Trust me, I'm sure John Dramani Mahama, being the president, being the farmer himself, understands these issues very well. And most of the Minister of Agriculture has been welcoming and has taken a lot of steps to make sure that the suffering of most farmers has been alleviated. But I believe strongly that the president is focused on this, and we have this problem resolved for our people.
He also notes that to further ease the challenges facing farmers in the area, government has begun the construction of roads under the Big Push initiative to facilitate the transportation of farm produce.
Most farmers are struggling to be able to bring their farm produce to the various market centers. I am sure in the next few years, we will be smiling, thanking President Mahama and his minister and the entire team for the good work being done for his Salaland in terms of road network.
The farmers are also demanding a ban on the importation of grains, particularly maize, to protect local farmers.
What we want government to do for us is first, they should stop importation. They import a lot of maize into the country since last year to this year, and still they are still importing the maize.
What we are pleading the government, like the government should know that the importation of the maize is too much. Because you know, when you have your old people, the poor people who are farmers and farm the maize, country will have the maize in the house, no even buyer.
Farming, which remains the main livelihood of people in the area, is gradually becoming unattractive to residents who once depended on it. Government intervention, they say, is therefore crucial to salvaging the situation. For Joy News, Fatao Bayaga, Tumu, Upper West Region.
Well, it's a good time now to examine the agri sector. You recall the Nkukong Kiting initiative that was introduced by this government. Agriculture was one of the key sectors of the NDC. They pledged to prioritize the agri sector. They promised to boost production, strengthen the value chain, and create jobs. 1 year into this administration, we're assessing the agri sector. We want to find out what exactly they've done so far. How is the Nkukong Kiting initiative performing? Joining me via Zoom is Awawa Piao Adugwala. He is the national president of the Peasant Farmers Association of Ghana. We appreciate your time here on The Pulse. I'd like to start with your personal assessment of this administration's performance, especially in the agri sector 1 year on.
Thank you very much for having me, and thank you. And good afternoon to your listeners. Yeah, as farmers, if you look at our assessment of the sector, we will have a mixed reaction about what has happened in the last 1 year. Of course, to begin with, last year we have had a number of fertilizers that were distributed to our members, distributed across the country by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. The peasant farmers received some fertilizer, and of course, fertilizer was equally distributed across the country. As we received the fertilizer, of course, much of it went into production. So now our biggest challenge, which we have known since last year, is that we have been able to produce enough rice, we have been able to produce enough meat, but there is no market. And government assurance of bringing buffer stock company to be able to buy the surplus from us, we are yet to see that come into reality. So the biggest headache we are having at the moment is that we have so much meat, we still have so much paddy rice that we are unable to sell in the market. And of course, as we all know, we have a lot of importation. We have a lot of imported rice coming into the country. Some is passing through the forest borders from our neighboring countries. And of course, let me even be quick to add that much of this rice that comes to the country, if you look at the quality, much of it is of low quality compared to the nutritious local rice that we produce in this country. But we are unable to find market for it. So it's been a mixed year for us. We thank the ministry for the supply of fertilizer. However, we are unable to sell what we produce. And when that happens, what it means is that we are going to run at a cost, at a loss, looking at the cost of production, and we will not be able to sustain our businesses going forward.
But has government at least gotten in touch with the association and members? Because we know that they earmarked some amount for the purchase of some of these produce as a result of the glut.
Yeah, well, the announcement was made by the president himself. Of course, the Minister of Food and Agriculture have equally made that announcement. But the last time we were hearing from the minister was that, of course, this is government money. It has to go through procurement processes before the money will be released for buffer stock company to buy the farm produce from us. And as we speak, we are yet to see those who have been given contracts. We are yet to see people who have been awarded contracts on the ground buying the paddy rice. We still have a lot of rice, particularly in northern Ghana. You come to central region, all across the place. Our members still have enough rice. We have enough maize, go to Tumu, and so many other places in the country. So as long as you see what our members want to see is that those who have been given contracts are on the ground, buying the farm produce from them so that they can recover the cost. At least they'll be able to recover something to go into production next year or this year. Of course, we are in a new year to be able to go into production. So we are still expecting that much has to be done. The announcement was, we received that as a positive news, but we are yet to see the reality on the ground. That is what we are waiting for. And that is what is more important to us as farmers. And of course, we will also be expecting to see some of the promises in the budget. Of course, it was even in the government manifesto. The farmer service centers will expect to see them dotted across the country so that as farmers, we can have access to farm machinery like the power tillers, the tractors, and other. We are yet to see all those things on the ground. So we hope that government, of course, Ministry of Finance will release the amount that has been promised the Ministry of Food and Agriculture for all these policies to be implemented. But what we need as a matter of agency is for the buffer stock company to come to the ground and buy the paddy rice and buy the maize, stop the farmers, so that we can make some money and get inputs to be able to go into this year's production. Otherwise, many farmers are going to run at a loss. As I'm even speaking to you.
So you haven't started this year's production yet? Is that the case?
Pardon?
You haven't started this year's production yet?
Of course, we have entered a new year, and it depends on the geographical location that you are in the country. Those who are at irrigation fields are able to plant as soon as they have it. There are others too. Much of Ghana, we depend on the rain-fed agriculture. As we speak, if you go to northern Ghana, like I said, people have harvested so much, they need to sell to be able to plan for this year's production. So if they are not able to sell the rice, it's going to be a big problem for them.
And what do you want to change, really, for the year 2026? What do you want to see changed in this year, 2026, especially for the farming sector?
Exactly. So going forward, what I want to see is that buffer stocks should be up and doing. And like you said, what has been announced in the budget, that policy directive that government institutions like the public schools and the rest should be buying, they have to source their food locally from the farmers. We want to see that policy implemented to the latter. It should not only just be a directive. We should reach a stage where contracts should not be given to people to travel outside Ghana to go and buy rice for the school feeding program. We have enough rice in this country. So all those who have been awarded contract want to see government follow up on that directive. That if you have been awarded contract to purchase rice or maize for the school feeding program, you must source it locally from the farmers. And that policy should be followed through. And we even want government to rope in other public institutions. One, you are funded with taxpayers' money. And then you have the opportunity to be able to purchase food for your organization or institution. Then it should be locally sourced from the farmers. And moving forward, government should also be looking at the importation. How we allow all kinds of rice and then other food products, produce to come into this country. Going forward, we should be able to limit on the importation of these things in order to create market for our farmers. Of course, we'll be looking at having access to credit facilities at reasonable interest rates so that the farmers will be able to produce enough. And these are some of the things that we are looking forward and expect that at least resources should be made available so that farmers will be able to do the. Mind you, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture have a policy of letting Ghana become self-sufficient in rice production. So if we are to become self-sufficient in rice production and our local farmers are producing and they cannot sell the rice, and we depend so much on imports, on importation of rice, and which is not being sold in the market, and our own farmers cannot sell. How does Ghana achieve that status of becoming self-sufficient in rice production when the local farmers are not able to sell their rice? It means that policy goal is going to be defeated by what is happening currently. So we want to see all these policies implemented. And of course, as farmers, we are stakeholders in agriculture. We are ready to engage government and to provide any support that will be required for us to be able to move forward to match agriculture and improve agriculture and let Ghana become self-sufficient in food production. That is the goal of the farming.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wapal, for your time here on The Pulse. Away from that, students of the University of Ghana have expressed deep dissatisfaction with management's delay in reducing the 25% increase in academic fees as directed by the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission. In interviews, several students stated that the university has not yet refunded the excess fees they paid following the increment. They described the situation as frustrating, especially for students facing financial difficulties. Meanwhile, other students are appealing to the university's management to implement the fee reduction immediately to ease the financial burden on the student body.
Honestly, right now, I would say that 80% of the school don't even think that the refunding will happen. Personally, I don't think it will happen. There will be a trick or something about next semester or next year, and then eventually we'll just forget about it and then nothing will happen. That is what I think.
So now, since the communication came, we don't know if they are going to do, because it has not been done yet though, but then we don't know if they're going to do it later or something is going to come up. We are just waiting.
Heard anything about any reductions. We've already paid our fees and we've not heard anything about any refunds or anything like that. So we are just there. It's still the same. I paid 3,100. We've not had any reduction. Last academic year it was 2,800. We've not got any refunds. We've not heard anything from the school.
Currently, there is no communique from the management of the school that the fees have been reverted as directed by G.
So I've been told this is going to be happening soon, and that's by the 17th. So every student who has already paid the fees are going to get a refund of their fees.
My fees are actually now reflecting, they've reduced the fees. So right now it's a bit okay. Plus,
I'm not say for sure if it has been reduced, but then we've paid an amount to come to school, so I can't tell if it's after that directive or right now we are paying what they still insisted we should pay.
So we would like the school to work on it as soon as possible, so that because it's actually affecting students, some having problems with registration and stuff because of the increment. So we'll plead with the university to actually work on it as soon as possible, so it will aid in our registration.
Away from education, the Member of Parliament for Tano North in the Ahafo region, Dr. Gideon Boago, as part of his human resource development agenda for his constituents, awarded scholarships to 127 students from the area to support their tertiary education across universities, colleges and training institutions. The beneficiaries, drawn from public and private universities, colleges of education and health, technical universities and training colleges, as well as centers, each received a check to help cover the academic fees. The following report has more.
Studies across 38 countries find that a more educated workforce contributes significantly to economic growth, helping increase national income and reduce poverty rate. World Bank research predicts that by 2040, 82% of all tertiary students will be in developing countries, underlying the growing need for affordable access to higher education in regions where funding remains limited. In Ghana, recipients of education support are much more likely to enroll in and complete tertiary education, gain cognitive and economic benefit, and saw positive outcomes for their families' health and development. To this effect, Dr. Gideon Boaku says the scholarship scheme is aimed at easing the financial burden on parents and students, especially those from rural communities in the Tano North constituency.
What we have done today is basically to provide financial support to our colleagues. I should say colleagues because I'm also a student. Our colleague students in the tertiary institutions who are from Tano North constituency. This is my constituency. This is where I come from. I know, and we all know, that students in Ghana face Herculean challenges in terms of the payment of school fees. And parents alike also suffer similar fate. So when I became the Member of Parliament, I looked back into my days as a tertiary student, and I realized that I was able to go to school and complete on the benefits that people gave me. So I decided that the MP Common Fund that accrues to my accounts, I will take part of it and use it to help students pay their school fees.
Some beneficiary students say the financial burden are lifted thanks to their Member of Parliament, Dr. Gideon Boaku.
Dr. Gideon Boaku sponsored us with scholarship, so I've received mine, and this is going to help me because I have not paid for my school fees. Yes, so this is going to help pay my school fees.
And as Doctor said, this opportunity that has been given to us, we are also hoping
that one day, when we also get this opportunity some way, we also assist or help our younger ones to also further their education.
A parent said the timely intervention will end parents' struggles for loans to pay their wards fees. Emmanuel Edujemfi, Tanoso, Tano North Municipality.
Well, that's how we wrap up the polls. For more news, please log on to myjoyonline.com. My name is Faustina Safo. Good afternoon.